that's why I always do the pre-show now, because the program need to like warm up. You know what I'm saying? Can't just hop straight into it. So, with that being said, we're gonna go straight into it. Alright, so sorry for the missing time. Was out to everybody. Shout out to Zanita67 for staying on top of it. You know, she hit me up and be like, yo, where they at now? Where you at? Hold on, let me get myself situated with the TV screen back here. Turn the box on. Alright, so now today's topic on Financial Fridays. Let me turn the music down. Today's topic on Financial Fridays is how to buy a house. Now, obviously, I do not have my own house, so I will not specifically be telling you how to buy a house, but we will tap into the resources, the limitless amounts of resources we got out there of people that will tell us how to buy a house. So, y'all get settled in and enjoy as usual. Usual. If you did. Today's word is usual. U-S-U-A-L. Usual. All right. So the question today comes from this simple fact right here. Who am I logged in as? Is that me? All right. The question comes from the fact that we are all living in the YouTube generation. We gonna do it ourselves because we gonna look it up on YouTube. All right. That's our way of figuring things out. All right. Stop me if I'm saying something wrong. It's a lot of things right now I done learned and figured out just from YouTube. So why not figure out how to buy a house or learn how to buy a house? So what I'm about to do right now is literally type in how to buy a house, or let me see where my glasses at. How to buy a house on YouTube, and we're gonna run down the list. So let's go. House. I didn't spell house right. All right. We're gonna go with my man's first. Here go my man's. Chandler David Smith. That's my guy, man. Oh my guy.
And you do it well.
Let's see what he got.
It's time to do it bigger. It's time for Shopify. Shopify makes it easy to set up your online store. Expand into new sales channels.
Let me turn this up.
Bring your brand
Skip this
to the
ad.
world.
Here we go.
What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today we are going to show you all of the steps that you need to know to be able to purchase a home. We're going to talk about how to get approved for a home loan, how to find a realtor, and how to find the perfect house.
Hey, what's
and
up,
most
O?
importantly, how to do
Good to
all
have
of
you in
that
here. I hope
without
you're
getting
feeling
screwed or
good.
taken advantage of. So with all of that being said,
I'ma check on you.
let's jump into it. All right, guys, if you're new to the channel, I've been investing in real estate for the last 8 years, and I currently own over $14 million worth of real estate. I've had the opportunity to go through this process a lot, and that's why I'm going to help you know how to get approved for a loan and go through all of the qualifications that are going to be required of you. I'm going to show you how to find a good realtor, how to purchase the house, how to negotiate not only on the house, but also on your financing and everything else that you need to know so you don't get taken advantage of. All that I ask you to do is remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell so that you can catch all of my future videos where my goal is to help you to build a huge passive income. Now that we've covered that, let's just jump right into things. Now, I know purchasing a home can be an extremely intimidating process, and the biggest reason for that is it's a very large purchase price. However, you need to remember, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, you can pick up a home for as little as 3.5% 5% down. Now, lots of people are intimidated by this idea because they're worried about the fact that they don't want to take out a ton of debt. However, if you do it properly, I promise it isn't something you should be scared of. Once you understand how to get financing, how to go through the process, a lot of you are probably renting right now when you could be owning a home that's consistently going up in value and doing it for less per month. So just understand it's really not that intimidating of a process. Just hang with me, watch this entire video, and you're gonna know everything you need to know to be able to purchase a home. So the first thing you need to get right is your credit score, and I wanna show you kind of the minimum. On your credit score, you need to have at least a 580 to get an FHA loan or a 620 to get a conventional loan or a VA loan. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, you're probably gonna wanna do an FHA loan. This gives you the ability to pick it up for a substantially lower down. Now, you do have extra fees with that when it comes to insurance and other things that come with an FHA loan that scare people away. However, as long as the numbers work and you've got a mortgage that you can afford, this can give you the ability to get into a home a lot sooner. And in my opinion, it's worth paying those extra monthly fees so that you can get into a home sooner and put yourself in a place where maybe you're paying less than you were renting, but you have a home that's going up in value. Now, a conventional loan is a loan where you're not going to have to pay those, especially if you're 10% or more on your down payment. And it kind of trickles up, and you can talk to your loan officer about this, but at 3.5%, 5%, and 10%, those fees are getting smaller and smaller. And so you've just got to figure out for you. But I would tell you, as long as you've got good reserves, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but if you can get into a home and your mortgage is going to be less every month than you would be paying renting, and you can get into a home, I think that makes a ton of sense. Now, you don't want to stretch where you put yourself in a bad place, but for a lot of people, it makes sense to pay those extra fees so they can get into a home.
All right, tell me how much y'all just seen or didn't see, so that I can get y'all right. We can get on the right path, because the phone call, I was distracted, and I didn't see if I had that whatever bit of clothes they were supposed to give me. Yeah, y'all let me know what it is that y'all saw and didn't see. Where's Under Armour? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run it back just a couple seconds anyway, so you can hear what he said, if just in case. All right, cool.
A home. So the first thing you need to get right is your credit score, and I want to show you kind of the minimum. On your credit score, you need to have at least a 580 to get an FHA loan or a 620 to get a conventional loan or a VA loan. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, you're probably going to want to do an FHA loan. This gives you the ability to pick it up for a substantially lower down. Now, you do have extra fees with that when it comes to insurance and other things that come with an FHA loan that scare people away. However, as long as the numbers work and you've got a mortgage that you can afford, this can give you the ability to get into a home a lot sooner. And in my opinion, it's worth paying those extra monthly fees so that you can get into a home sooner and put yourself in a place where maybe you're paying less than you were renting, but you have a home that's going up in value. Now, a conventional loan is a loan where you're not going to have to pay those, especially if you're 10% or more on your down payment. And it kind of trickles up, and you can talk to your loan officer about this, but at 3.5%, 5%, and 10%, those fees are getting smaller and smaller. And so you've just got to figure out what works best for you. But I would tell you, as long as you've got good reserves, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but if you can get into a home and your mortgage is going to be less every month than you would be paying renting, and you can get into a home, I think that makes a ton of sense. Now, you don't want to stretch where you put yourself in a bad place, but for a lot of people, it makes sense to pay those extra fees so they can get into a home a lot sooner. Now we're going to jump into your income, your taxes, and your work history, and I'm just going to kind of crank through these. First off, if you're a 1099, you need 2 years of income. And I'm going to come back to this. If you're a W-2, you kind of also need 2 years of income. However, if you have a history of being in the same industry, a lot of times you can fluff on that, and a lot of times they'll even count your schooling as being part of those 2 years. And so this one's a lot easier. If you have a W-2 and you're working a job, most likely the second you get that W-2, you're going to be able to get approved. If you're a 1099, there are kind of some things you've got to jump through, and that's why we're going to jump down to the next section, which is taxes. Now, with taxes, there's a principle I like to call pay to play. And essentially what it means is you've got to be paying taxes to show income. If you've got your taxes and it shows you had zero income because you wrote everything off because you're a 1099, it's going to be borderline impossible for you to get approved for a loan. Congratulations on not paying the government any money. However, if you did that, odds are you totally fluffed your expenses, for one, which is kind of dishonest, and two, on your taxes, you're not going to show any income, so it's going to be borderline impossible for you to get approved for a loan. Now, this carries over perfectly into the next one, which is your debt to income ratio. Now, when it comes to your debt to income ratio, they're gonna look at your taxes and what you claimed, what your income is, and then they're gonna compare that to your debt. Now, a lot of people wonder, how do they look at that? They're just looking at your consistent monthly payments. So if you've got a car payment, if you've got student loans, if you've got other things that are coming out every single month, they're gonna look at that and compare it to your monthly income. So if you've got a ton of car loans, it's gonna make it a lot harder for you to get approved for a loan. However, if you don't have any car loans, you're in a place where it should be substantially easier because your debt to income ratio is almost nothing. Now, the way that it works is you've got no more than 43%, and this is stretching. This is what I found online. I think if you have a 43% debt to income ratio, you still might have an issue getting approved for that loan, especially if your credit is iffy and some other things are iffy. However, you could still send it or try and fix that. They prefer you to be under 36%, and usually they don't want you to be more than 28% towards your mortgage. Now, if you don't know how to calculate this or it stresses you out, again, you can talk to your loan officer and he'll walk you through it. He also might have some different things that they require of you, but this is pretty standard. They want to make sure you've got enough money in the bank to not only cover your down payment, your closing costs, and all that other stuff, but they want to see that you've got extra money in the bank so that you can float it for a while if you're running into any issues. Now, again, this is when you're going to talk to your loan officer about and say, hey, how much do I need in the bank? What do I need to show for my income, my debt to income ratio, all of that stuff, or just bring your stuff in and they're going to be able to walk you through it. However, before you do that, we need to help you pick the right loan officer. So I'm going to show you a couple tips and tricks to make sure you get the right loan officer before you go to work with them. All right, guys, I know you're ready to jump in, but before you do, we need to make sure that we help you pick the right loan officer. Now, in order to do this, you're gonna wanna go and shop out 3 or 4 different loan officers. You're gonna wanna get them your credit score, your income, all of that stuff, but you're gonna wanna do it before they pull your credit. Once they know everything about you, then you're going to have them compete against all of the other loan officers and see who's going to give you the best interest rate, again, before they pull your credit. Once you know who's best and who you like working with the best, then you can jump in, you can have them pull your credit, and you can be in a place where you can get pre-approved for a loan. And when I say jump in, I mean jump in. All right, let's go to the next step. One other note I wanted to make on picking a loan officer, remember that the rates aren't the only thing that matter. You wanna make sure you're looking at your rates, your closing costs, your amortization, and the PMI and MIP. These are what I was talking about as that other mortgage insurance that is for 10% or less down on a property. Now, the reason you wanna look at this is you might get incredible rates, but if it's on only a 10-year loan or a 15-year loan, that's not that great. You wanna get a 30-year fix so that you can drag it out. At least that's how I like to do it. Now, if you wanna pay it off quicker, you can, but that's going to increase your payment. So you've gotta decide what you wanna do. Just understand that your amortization, your closing costs, both of these, they can make them more, and that gives them the ability to make your rates less. So just because the rates are good doesn't necessarily mean it's the best loan for you. So the best advice I can give you is understand all of these things so that when you're talking to loan officers, you know the right questions and you know what you're looking for in a loan. And once you find the right loan officer, then you can have them pull your credit, then you can get pre-approved, and you can figure out what amount you're pre-approved for so you can start shopping. This next part of the process is where people can seriously screw themselves over or be screwed over by someone else. So make sure you listen closely and follow my advice when I say, first off, don't get emotional. Once you figure out what you can afford, and it might be less than what you get pre-approved for, you need to stick to those numbers. The next thing is you need to do your research. A lot of times you'll get into a home and you don't recognize that there's an extra HOA fee. You don't understand all of the fees with electric, water, all of these other things. There are furniture expenses. There's all kinds of other stuff you can get hit with. So most importantly, do your research and don't get emotional. Now, if I was you and it was my first time ever purchasing a home, I would want to find a bomb realtor. Now, you can buy a for sale by owner without a realtor. However, you really open yourself up to be in a place where maybe you don't do the paperwork right or something else happens where you kind of get taken advantage of. You also can be more emotional without a realtor there saying, hey, just keep these things in mind. Now, Alternatively, a realtor that's just trying to turn a buck can get you emotional to purchase a property, so that can be just as dangerous. So it's so important to pick a realtor that you believe understands the market, knows how to help you find a good home, but also can help you to not get emotional. So go in, lay out your criteria and say, look, I do not want to overspend on this house. This is my budget. You need to help me find a home that I love that's going to be within this budget. And if you push me out of the budget, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to want to work with you. So is that something that you can work with? At this point, then you can go and sit down with a couple different realtors, figure out who you're the most confident and comfortable with, and then you can have them get to work to try and find you a home. One other friendly note, once you find the right realtor, use and abuse them. The cool thing about your realtor and your loan officer is they're working for you for free until a transaction happens. So you can ask them as many questions as you want. You can walk them through as many properties as you want. You can get whatever you want out of them up until the purchase, and they make their money on the purchase. So don't stress using and abusing both of these people. Now, they might tell you otherwise, but if you find a good one in both these categories, you should become a professional in the loan that you're going to get and in the market because you've connected with the right people. Now,
Okay, Fred, time to find our perfect apartment on Zillow. Don't worry, change will be good. Nice.
now comes the fun part. Once you've set out your criteria, you've got all the right people in the right places, you can start looking at a bunch of different homes, and you've got to find the right one for you. Now again, I'm gonna say this a bunch through the video, don't get emotional. Please hold to your budget. If you don't have a budget you need to hold to and you can just blow money, go for it. But I see so many people that get into a home, and the reason that buying a home is worse than renting, and the reason that using leverage is worse for them, is because they overspend. They look at it and they're like, oh, I could maybe afford $500 more a month or $1,000 more a month. And pretty soon they've bit off way more than they can chew, and buying a home was the worst decision they ever could have made. So please don't get emotional. The other thing is continue to do that research, understand the HOA fees and anything else while you're going through the homes. And once you find one that you love that's within your budget, then it's time to put in an offer. And what I would suggest doing is always put in an offer that is low. However, a lot of times you're in a competitive market. And if that's the case, you might need to offer right where you want to be. And you can talk to your realtor about different strategies you can use to go about this, but it's really hard when you're in a competitive market because you can't really underbid and try and save money on it if there are gonna be multiple offers. And what I would say, at least from what I've learned, is you can wait around and get a killer deal and under offer, and you might finally find what you love. However, if this is your home, if you have the money, if you can afford it, then it might be worth putting in an offer where you know you're going to get it and you also know it's going to be within your budget, because otherwise you might miss out on being able to lock down that property. Now, there are tons of different negotiation tactics that I would teach you for a rental property, but really what it comes down to on either one of these is knowing what you're willing to spend and making sure you don't spend over that. A lot of times what happens is you'll put in an offer, there are multiple offers, and you get bid up, and that's where you justify spending more than you can afford, and I'm begging you not to do that. When it gets to that point, bail out, hold to your budget, do what you committed to do, and your realtor is gonna help you put in offers and hopefully end up where you need to be. Now, one helpful hint I can give you to saving money once you've got it under contract is every home has issues you're going to run into. So once it's under contract, you're gonna have 10 days for due diligence. You want to make sure your contract is written up so that you don't lose your earnest money. And what I mean by this is you wanna make it dependent on an inspection and dependent on financing. So if for some reason your financing falls through or the inspection is super gnarly, you have the opportunity to bail and you've got 10 days to do it. During that 10-day period, you wanna make sure that your loan is completely ready to go. You've obviously been pre-approved, but you wanna bring that property to your lender and make sure that you are good to run on that. You also want to make sure that you have a professional inspector come and go through the property. And this is a place you can actually get money back. The way that you're gonna get money back is if you find
my recommendation. Well, thanks for joining in, Yo G. You know what I'm saying? May I know what this is about? Yes, you may. So today, I host a show named Expansion Pack every Monday through Friday, where I game. I'm a gamer, so I try to dedicate 2 hours throughout the week to just locking down some sort of information. Our topics range from planning and execution, navigating your life, mental health, and now today, financial Financial Fridays, which today we're talking about how to buy a house. the theme behind it is we look up on YouTube every day things about how to fix stuff and whatnot. But how to buy a home is a very interesting topic that we should be able to learn from YouTube. So here you go.
Issues, you're going to put all those issues together and you're going to put a price to them and you're going to say, hey, I want all of these issues fixed, or I want this amount of money for me to purchase the property. Now, a lot of people would say, Chandler, what if they walk away from the deal? Well, that's what's great about the way this is structured, is the way that it's structured is you can write these things up, you can put them in, and they'll say, yes, I'll pay for them, or they'll say, no, I won't. Do you still want to go through with the deal? And then obviously if the numbers work, you go through with it. If they don't, you don't. But you've got an opportunity to nickel and dime them and get back as much as you can for any issues or fixes or problems with the home. Now, one of the ways you can really use an inspection to your advantage is by getting money back that you don't have to use right away. For example, on a window, you've got 2 panes. And a lot of times the seal will break and you'll get moisture between those 2 panes. Now, this is a ruined window. When I say ruined window, I mean they need to replace it. Like, that window is broken. However, that window doesn't affect keeping the heat or cold out. As a matter of fact, it works like usual. So if you're okay with kind of a blurry window, then you can get thousands of dollars back on something that is broken, but you don't have to fix that right then. So again, that gives you the opportunity to put less down on the property and put you in an even more comfortable spot going into a home. Now, lots of people advise you to put 25%, 30%, 40% down on a property or pay cash for it. What I would tell you is if you spend all of your cash to get into a property and then your reserves are limited, you're still at risk of paying your mortgage, whatever it is. And that's why if you've got money saved away, I would say put as little down as you can that you're comfortable with, obviously, and making sure that you avoid mortgage insurance, if that makes sense. But you want to put as little down as possible and keep as much reserves in the bank as you can, because then, you know, a year's of reserves only knocks off a little bit of your payment, but it gives you a place where if you keep it in reserves, you could last a whole year paying your mortgage. And in my opinion, that puts you in a much safer place. So you want to make sure you've got good reserves and you do whatever you can to keep those. And one of those, again, is an inspection where you find things to nickel and dime them to get money back. And then you don't have to spend that right away if you're a little tighter than you'd like to be.
I'm your football obsessed best man.
When all eyes are on you, my eyes are glued to the game.
Yeah,
now you're to the point where you've inspected the property, you're good to go, you're approved on your loan, everything is ready to roll. However, there are a couple last minute tips I would give you. If I would
out there on the market right now, so many places to live. Now you may have your specific filters that you put on where you like, all right, I want to live here, I want to spend this, I have this amount of people living with me, you know, that type of thing. But you still got, from any filter that you put on, you still got a whole bunch of selection out there. Oh, I missed that. Oh, I missed that too. All right, let me finish. Let my man's.
I would go back to those other loan officers that were competing and I would say, hey, what can you do on interest rates? Is there anything else you can do? Is there anything you can do on closing costs? Anything else to win my business? Now, in my opinion, I wouldn't go with any of these people. You're already through the process. You don't want to slow it down. However, if they can give you something and you can say, look, it's under contract, I'm good to go, what can you do? A lot of times they'll give you absurdly competitive rates, closing costs, other things, and you can take those back to your loan officer that you've been working with and you can say, look, I love doing business with you, you've been awesome. However, these other people have better rates, terms, other things. I'm thinking about switching. What can you guys do to drop them down? Because if you can drop them down, I'm gonna be good to go. And if you time that up right, last minute, you can get an even better deal on your closing costs or potentially your interest rates. And then you're in a place where it's a win-win-win for you going to the closing table. Now, when you go to the closing table, super intimidating. However, all you've got to do is make sure the purchase price is right, you're getting back the money that they promised back, and that all of the rates, terms, everything else on the loan are done properly. Once you look, it's pretty self-explanatory if you just look at the nitty-gritty stuff and you can see that everything's there. And I have seen multiple title companies make mistakes. So find a title company that you trust, make sure that everything's done properly, double, triple, quadruple check it, and do it before closing day. They should send you that paperwork before so you can look over all of it, you can make sure it's perfect. Then on closing day, you just go and compare, you make sure everything looks good, you sign on the dotted line, and you are good to go. You're a happy new owner of your brand new home. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell. And if you're someone that loves this process, you buy your new home and you're wanting to know how to pay for that home with passive income.
You want to know exactly how to buy a house just like this one for $1,000?
Come on, I'll show you.
That's my man's.
Now, the first thing you got to do, this is
Straight
number
to
one,
it.
is
See,
get
that's
your
what-
credit.
That's what I like. Go ahead, hit that shot. That's what I like. Get straight to it. That's my
You got to
man's.
get. Come on, I'll show you. You want to know exactly how to buy a house just like this one for $1,000? Come on, I'll show you. Now, the first thing you got to do, this is number one, is get your credit right. You got to get your credit right, you got to get your money right. A lot of people say, well, Wayne, I've got a job, I've been on my job for years, I've got a 620 credit score, how can I buy a house for $1,000? And hang in there with me, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. For one, you got to have a 620 or higher credit score. If you have a 620 or higher credit score, 2 years on the job, and show proof that you have paid your taxes for the last 2 years, you can buy a house. And not just any house, it's exciting to know you can buy a house just like the one I'm walking you through, and they're all around the country. It's not just right here in southern Louisiana, it's in every state. The types of loans that you get, it's called a USDA loan. They're guaranteed by the United States Department of Agriculture, and they call these loans rural development loans. Now, you could purchase a house like this. This home is only 6 years old. It's open, floor plan, granite countertops, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, just under 2,100 square feet, and you only need $1,000. Now, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. My name is Wayne Turner. For nearly 30 years, I've done everything when it comes to real estate, buying, flipping, selling, you name it, sold thousands of houses. I'm going to show you exactly how you can buy a house just like this one. I'm going to walk you through it, and as I walk through, I'm going to show you exactly how to do just that, buy a house for $1,000 out of pocket. Now, as I'd mentioned, this house is in a gated community. It's only 6 years old, and it's actually on the water, believe it or not. Now, what's really cool about this house is it's on the water, but it's not in a required flood zone. You'll want to definitely, anytime you live on the water, you'll want to make sure you have flood insurance on the property. The flood insurance on a home like this is going to run you about $600 a year. There's no guarantee that it will flood. There's no guarantee that it won't flood, but at least you know your flood insurance is only going to run you about $600 a year. And of course, you got to keep in mind that flood insurance is different from homeowner's insurance. Your homeowner's insurance does not cover flooding. So you want to make sure that you have separate policies. And what I mean by it's not required. If you're in flood zone A, which is the highest risk of a home flooding, then it's required by the mortgage company that you have flood insurance, and it's substantially more. But if you're in flood zone B or C or X, those are the least likely homes and areas to flood, and the flood insurance premium that you pay is much less. And listen, this is legit. If you've bought a home just like this, I need you to leave a comment below, because you give hope and inspiration to other people that haven't purchased a home like this. It's real. It happens. The USDA, they guarantee the loan. It's a rural development loan. We get the seller pay your closing costs as real estate brokers. We have over 90,000 agents around the country, and we have the seller pay your closing cost. And it's a 100% loan guaranteed by the United States government. Now, thousands of people buy houses just like this literally on a monthly basis around the United States. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter to me if you don't buy a house or not. I just think you're doing yourself an injustice. I purchased my first home when I was 21 years old, and I absolutely don't regret it. And I can promise you, most people, that if you ask them, do you regret buying your house? They'll say, no, I do not regret buying my house. Now, where the $1,000 comes into play is you're going to need the money to do a home inspection. I always tell everybody, get a home inspection. Don't buy a house without a home inspection. It's just going to give you peace of mind. You lay your head on the pillow the first night you're in your home, and you want to know that it's been inspected. Now, here's what's really cool. Once you do an inspection, that doesn't mean you're buying the house as is. You can do a plumbing inspection, you can do an electrical inspection, or just have a general inspection. They'll run anywhere from $400 to $600 depending on the size of the house, but most of these homes that are USDA homes are typically 3,000 or less square feet, and that just kind of coincides with the price as well. Now, a question you're probably wanting to ask is, Wayne, what is the most amount of home I can purchase? What's the highest price? And it's not based on price, it's based on income. So the mortgage company will look at your income, and the federal government says if you're going to do a USDA loan, then you can't make over a certain amount of money. Okay. Now, keep in mind, it's adjusted gross income. A lot of people say, well, Wayne, what is that income limit? It's going to vary depending on your county, your city, your parish. And for the most part, it's just county driven. And you can go to USDA.gov, you can click on the county button, and you can see there's your county. That's the maximum amount of income that you make. But it's adjusted gross income. So for example, if you have deductions, right? So you make $110,000 or you make $80,000, or let's say you make $125,000, but if you have $18,000 in deductions because you have 2 or 3 kids, then that amount's going to go below 110 and you can qualify for a home. Now, it is a little different, and listen to me here. It's a little different if you're a household of 5. So I said it's $110,650, but if you have 3 dependents, let's say you have 3 children, it's you and your spouse and y'all have 3 children. In that case, your income limit is increased to $146,000. So that's the maximum money that you can make. But keep in mind, it's adjusted gross income. It's not just your gross income across the board, it's your income. You may make $165,000 and say, Wayne, I can't qualify for that. Well, no, look at your tax returns. What does your tax return say that you made? What did you actually pay taxes on? That's your income. Now, some people say, Wayne, I can't do this type of loan because I filed bankruptcy 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Actually, you can. These loans are USDA rule development. They're underwritten with the same guidelines as FHA. That means that if you're 2 years out of a bankruptcy, 2 years out of your discharge date, so you file for bankruptcy, they give you a discharge date, typically within 2 to 6 months after you file for bankruptcy. Within 2 years from your discharge date, as long as you can show 2 years of income, you've paid your taxes, and you have a 620 credit score, you can purchase a house like this. Now, some people may say, well, Wayne, I owe back taxes. I can't buy a house like this. You actually can buy back taxes. Here's what you have to do. You have to contact the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. You have to set yourself up on a payment plan, and you have to show proof that you've been paying them consistently for 3 months. Once you can show proof to a mortgage company, you're set up on a payment plan, and you're paying that amount, and you can negotiate that with the IRS if you're paying that amount. And here's the kicker. If your income can substantiate, in other words, if your income, the money that you make, can cover your mortgage payment plus all of your debts, plus that IRS payment, you can qualify for a house, $1,000. Buys one just like this. Now, some of you may be thinking, Wayne, I can't do that type of loan. I'm self-employed. I get it. I've been self-employed for almost 30 years. You write a lot of stuff off, and sometimes your income doesn't substantiate what's going to be going out for mortgage payment, that sort of thing. But what most lenders can do is some of that stuff can actually be worked back in there. It's on a case-by-case basis, but at least do yourself a favor and go to contactwayne.com. You'll book a 5-minute call with me. I'll show you exactly what to do, who to call, how to get it lined up, so you can take the next step in the process of buying a house. And another thing that's exciting for a lot of people is you can actually purchase a house just like this one. And if you purchase it and close on it at the first of a month, for example, say April 1st, then your first mortgage payment isn't due until June 1st. That's correct. So when you purchase a house, when you close at the beginning of the month, you don't have to start paying your mortgage payment for 60 days. So look, the process is pretty simple. You basically have to have a 620 credit score, 2 years on the job, and proof of income. And they're going to look at your income, they'll look at your debts, they're going to look at everything that you have coming in, what's going out, and they're going to qualify you on the phone. There's no cost and no obligation. You can go to contactwayne.com. You'll book a 5-minute call with me. From there, we can connect you with lenders around the country in your neighborhood.
I love how this
and get
video
you in a home just like this one. My name's Wayne Turner. Thank you for watching the video.
Yes, sir. Let's go to the next one.
I mean, it's crazy to think about it. Like, it used to cost millions to advertise on TV, and now, because of streaming...
So you're ready to buy a house. I'm going to tell you the 9 simple steps to buy your first home. It's not complicated, and you should not be overwhelmed. All of these people with homes are not smarter than you. You just need to know exactly what to do and how to do it, and I'm going to tell you. I'm Shahida Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. And my list may be a little bit different from other ones you'll find online. I didn't chat GPT this. This is what I've learned after helping thousands of people in America confidently buy their first home. This is the way you should do it. Number 1, determine what you can afford before the lender tells you what they want to lend you. This is very important because when you get pre-approved, which is step number 4, they are going to tell you how much they are willing to lend you. This may not necessarily be what you can afford. It's usually much more than what you can afford. So you want to determine ahead of time what you can comfortably afford in your budget. For example, and I use this often, when I was buying my house that I live in now with my husband, we had 2 children in daycare. When the lender pre-approves you, They don't care about any bills other than what shows up on your credit report for the most part. So they're not going to see the other things that you're responsible for. And daycare was very expensive. So what the lender thought we could afford was different from what we knew we could afford. So make sure you're determining what you can afford first. I have some videos that tell you what range you should be in. Number two is probably also a little bit different from what you're seeing online. Mine is to find a real estate agent, not to go ahead and start shopping for a house, but you want to find a real estate agent up front so they can tell you at least one lender they would recommend, because I'm going to recommend that you get pre-approved with at least 3 lenders. You can get a referral from family or friends that have recently bought a home or have bought a home maybe in the last 2 to 3 years, or from social media agents like on YouTube, Instagram, that sort of thing, that work in your area or the area that you're thinking about moving to. One of those 2 places, I want you to find a real estate agent. I want you to ask them for a lender referral. And then I want you to put them on the side for a second and then go ahead and get pre-approved. But before you get pre-approved, I want you to do step number 3. I want you to get organized, because you're going to be, and I'll tell you why, getting approved with 3 different lenders. Then you don't want to be unorganized, because you're going to have to be putting this information online in 3 different areas. So before you just go ahead and pull up your mortgage application, you want to get organized and start pulling some of your financial documents together, because to pre-approve you, they're going to need it like 2 major things. One is your income and your income documents. The other one is going to be your credit. And they're going to pull your credit just from your social security number. But you want to make sure that you have your pay stubs. A lot of people are getting direct deposit, so they don't know where their pay stubs are. You want your pay stubs. I want you to gather your tax returns. Many lenders don't require your tax returns, but just in case you qualify for any type of down payment assistance program, I want you to gather those for the last 2 years, your pay stubs for the last 2 months, and your bank statements for the last 2 months. Pull all of those things together. I have a video here that tells you everything they're probably going to ask for in your mortgage application, but that's what you're going to do to get organized. And then you're ready to get pre-approved. You're going to get pre-approved with 3 lenders, and this is who I recommend. One is the real estate agent's recommendation. The reason why I want you to get a real estate agent's recommendation, if you just randomly pull 3 different lenders, they are not typically, in my experience, going to be very responsive sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, because most lenders get their business from real estate agents. So when real estate agents refer them a client, then they're much more likely to make sure they follow up with that person. I have a lot of first-time home buyers that say, oh, I did an application online and nobody ever called me back, and that sort of thing. So I don't want that to happen to you. I want at least one of these 3 to come from a real estate agent that lender has a relationship with. They feel more obligated to make sure they follow up, even if you can't get pre-approved, and that's very important as well. So one of them is going to be from somebody your real estate agent recommends. The other one is your current bank or credit union. And then the last one can be a real estate broker or an online bank like Rocket Mortgage or something like that. So those are the 3 that I recommend. Just pull from those resources, those 3. Now, I want you to remember, and I have a full video that I want you to watch that explains the pre-approval process in great detail. I'm going to make sure I put all of these links in the description of this video. But the reason why you're doing 3, you want to get the best rate and the lowest fees from your lender. They don't all have the same rates and fees. So you want to make sure you're shopping your mortgage around. This is the most money you'll ever spend. So you want to spend some time making sure you are getting at least 3 quotes or 3 pre-approvals, and it will not impact your credit as long as you do them within a 14-day, 30-day window max.
All good information. I cannot express enough. Do your homework to make yourself as knowledgeable as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Depends on the credit scoring model, but try to get them all in within 14 days that you're doing these 3 pre-approvals, and it will only impact your credit one time, and it's explained in detail in this video. Let's move on to step number 5. Step number 5 is begin shopping for a home. Now that you've received your pre-approval and you know what you qualify for, you know
Make sure your realtor is knowledgeable in the type of loan you're using. Yes.
your budget is, and hopefully you're going off of your budget and not your pre-approval. And this channel, if this is your first time here, is going to be a great resource for you. I go live multiple times. I have videos on every part of the home buying process, organized in playlists, but you're going to begin shopping for your home with your real estate agent. And if you want to make sure, one thing I want you to make sure is that you're in a good neighborhood. So I made a video on what is a good neighborhood and how you can determine the best neighborhood for you, because you want to make sure your home, once you buy it, is going to go up in value over time and not down in value. Number 6. This is when you're going to make an offer on one of the homes that you've been shopping around for. You're going to make the offer. You're probably going to negotiate a little bit with the seller. You're going to come to terms with that seller, and then you're going to enter a binding contract. A binding contract is when both the seller and you, the buyer, sign the contract saying that you agree to the terms. Once you're under contract, we're moving to step 7, the due diligence period and your inspection. Okay. Now, you don't want to just buy a house and not know if the house needs repairs, if something's wrong with the house. So typically in contracts, your agent is going to make sure you have a due diligence period. It's a days or maybe even a week or so that you'll have time to inspect that house. And there are several inspections that you can do on a house. So you are going to have this time to inspect and negotiate repairs if you still want the house. And usually in this due diligence period, you can walk away and terminate and say, I changed my mind about this house. I didn't know about the things that came up in the inspection report. Or you can say, hey, I still want the house, but I need a credit for some things. I need some money off the sales price. I want, a credit for maybe the air conditioning isn't working. I want that repaired, or I want a credit for certain things. So that's some of the negotiation that you can do after you go under contract and do your inspections. Your real estate agent will help you through this process and make sure it goes smoothly for you. But I have a lot of videos about negotiating repairs and working with your home inspector, so you'll understand the process for yourself. Number 8 is underwriting and appraisal. So you've decided to go forward with the house and you've negotiated with the seller any repair issues. Now you're pre-approved. You got pre-approved in step number 4, but you're not fully approved. And this is when you typically go through underwriting. And underwriting is part of the borrowing process where they take you from pre-approved to approved. Now they're going to actually verify the things that you put in your application. So at the very beginning, you probably said, I work at this place, this is how much I get paid, that sort of thing. Now they're going to actually call your employer. They're actually going to call or require paperwork from you. If you are, renting a home right now, have you ever been late on that rent? How long will you be working at your job? Are you working, you said you were working full time, and your job, they call your job, your human resources, and they say that you're a temporary employee. They're going to go in more detail with some of the things that you said on your application. So make sure that you are being very truthful initially on the application, because as long as they verify all of your employment, they're going to verify you still have the money in the bank to buy this property. They're going to just verify everything you said initially in that application. I have 2 videos you may want to watch after this one. One is an underwriting video. It kind of goes through underwriting in greater detail. And then I also have a reason why some loans get denied after you received a pre-approval. You want to be cautious not to do any of those things. So step number 8 is underwriting and appraisal. So if you're borrowing money for this house, the lender, the bank, is not going to loan you more than that house is worth, because that house is collateral for the loan. So for example, if you're buying a house for $500,000 and they're loaning you $500,000, they're going to send an appraiser out, an appraiser that they choose, that's going to verify that that house is worth $500,000. And during that time, after you negotiate your repairs with the seller, they're going to be working through underwriting and appraisal to make sure that house is worth what they're going to lend you. If the house does not appraise for the contract price or the loan amount, then you probably have to renegotiate that contract with the seller. And I have a video about the appraisal process that you can watch as well. Now we're at step 9, the closing. Now all the hard parts are done. The seller has agreed to sell you this property. The lender has agreed to lend you the money. And now it's time for closing. And closing is simply the transfer of ownership from the seller to you. And depending on your state, you're either going to close with a closing attorney or a title company. And they're just responsible for making sure they transfer a clean title to you, the new buyer of this property. And you're going to sign a lot of paperwork, basically a lot of it saying that you're agreeing to pay the lender back the mortgage, whether you're doing a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage, you're agreeing to pay them back, and you are agreeing that you are aware that if you don't pay the mortgage, they can foreclose on the property. They'll be telling you all of those things, and you'll go ahead and transfer any money, your down payment, your closing costs. You'll transfer all of that during that time as well. So I really it's not a hard process. There are a lot of steps. There are 9 steps. But I do have a first-time homebuyer masterclass and Confidently Closed handbook. If you want to take advantage of that, it has a lot of videos that go in depth, and also has a lot of checklists through the process that will help you not make any expensive mistakes.
Okay, so we done like kind of cookie cut this episode in a way that I don't like. Let's shake it up.
We didn't just build another 3-row SUV. We carefully crafted every one of these.
I love this house! I'm sure you do love it, but I wouldn't buy it. Searching for a home is daunting, and you're probably frustrated, and it's tough. It's tough. But look, there are certain types of homes that I will tell my clients, like, no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't buy it. All right, that's it! I've helped many people over the years, and even in my own personal experience, I've looked at a lot of houses between working in real estate and even for myself, trying to find a house. I've seen a thing or two, and there are types of houses that I would never consider buying. So this week, I'm going to share with you the types of houses that you should never buy. I hope you find value in this, and it'll actually help you save some money in the long run, and you avoid some pretty costly mistakes. So I'm going to get into it right now. Let's just go and dive right in. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them down below. If you disagree with me, whatever, that's fine. Let me know what you think. Share your thoughts with me. I want to know. The first type of home that I would never buy are homes that are over 100 years old. I love me an old home. I love old homes. I love the craftsmanship, the architecture, all the unique features. Love them. I wouldn't buy one. What? For the most part, these older homes, yeah, they've been renovated, right? They've had probably multiple owners over the 100+ years. There are certain things in these homes, these old homes, that, could be potential problems. Yeah, I would never buy one because of this. So first and foremost, it's the plumbing and the electrical. Now, the plumbing, these old homes had lead pipes. Now, I'm sure that over the years, multiple owners, I'm sure they've replaced the pipes. Maybe some have not replaced all of the pipes. I've seen that. But the problem with that, you got lead pipes, you're going to have to replace all the plumbing, all the pipes in the house. And, I'm sure you're thinking right in your head now, there's just dollar signs as soon as I say that. tens of thousands of dollars that's going to cost to replace all the plumbing, all the pipes in the house. So that is a potential problem. And then let's talk about the electrical. Now, back in the day when these homes, were first built, they had what's called knob and tube wiring. I'm sure over the years that has been replaced. My God, I hope it's replaced. If somebody's using knob and tube wiring, that's a problem. But the potential issue is the type of wiring and how old the wiring is. If they change that wiring out, say prior to like 1960 or in the 1950s, the insulation on that wiring is only going to last 70 years. It's not the latest standards where the insulation on the wiring can last 100 years. So that's a potential problem too. You might have to replace all of the wiring. Another issue with these older homes is asbestos. Now, asbestos was used to insulate the hot water pipes to protect them from, like, say, touching the wood in the house and potentially causing a fire. And there was also asbestos floor tiles. So that's another issue too. And if you want to get rid of that, it's expensive. It's expensive, yes. And it's a hazard too. You have to hire a true environmental professional to properly remove the asbestos. That's another issue with these old homes. Another issue is there could be some unsafe features in these old homes. Sometimes these homes have too much charm. And by that, I mean they could have like a laundry chute, dumbwaiter, really steep staircases, low ceilings, non-working fireplaces. Yeah, if you have kids, these could be like serious safety issues for them. So I would not recommend, if you have a young family, buying an old home, especially if you see like the ones with the dumbwaiters and the laundry chutes. And I've seen those, and my God, they're cool. I love them. But now you're going to have to spend money to get those things closed off or somehow removed so your kids aren't, hanging out in a dumbwaiter, and possibly get stuck, and God forbid, like worse things can happen. So that's another problem with the older homes, and just another reason why I would never buy one. The next type of home I would never buy is a home in a flood zone. And you're probably saying, yeah, no, duh, I wouldn't buy in a flood zone, but I'm talking about the ones that are specifically in a 100-year and 500-year floodplain. And even if the home's never flooded, I wouldn't do it because, number one, the insurance. Now here in New Jersey, your average flood insurance is about $1,700 a year, and it could go up to around $5,000 a year. Now, the average cost in flood insurance in the United States, you're looking around $800, just between $800 and $900 a year. A 100-year flood zone means that there's a chance that the area would flood once every 100 years. 500-year zone, same thing. Like there's a chance it'll flood in 500 years. I wouldn't be relying on that because of all the crazy storms we've been having. There's still a risk. There's a risk that house is going to flood. Now, even if the homeowner tells you, oh, it's a 500-year floodplain, we've never had water, doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you. There's no guarantee. I get it. If you love the house, you need the house and whatever, I would be running far away from a house that's in a flood zone. Now, look, if you're buying a house on the Jersey Shore or, or down in Florida, you're on a beach somewhere near the water, that's another major risk, and I wouldn't be taking that on. But if you see that a house is in a 100-year, 500-year floodplain, I wouldn't do it. I would never buy that. The next type of house I would never buy is a home with underground oil tanks. I'm even saying homes with decommissioned oil tanks. Hear me out on this one. You have to check with your individual state and town to see what the regulations are as far as what's required to decommission a tank. Basically, what it is you remove the oil, you replace that with sand.
Well, it's time to find a new apartment on Zillow. Huh, these are all great. And this one's close to Mom. I can finally go to Sunday dinners again. Or maybe we could
Homeowners should follow the proper protocol with their town or local municipality to get the proper permits, follow the right process, and get to have the town come out and inspect it. And they're also going to do soil testing to make sure that no soil has been contaminated by the oil. Even if that is the case, that has been done, I would want that seller to remove the tank completely out of the ground and test that soil again. If you're in that situation, you come across a house that you want to buy and that seller is refusing to pull out that decommissioned tank, I would not be buying that house because you never know. And even if the paperwork shows that the soil is clean, it was never contaminated, you don't know. There's that slight chance that there was a leak somewhere in that tank, that wherever they tested, whatever portion of the soil that they tested may not have been affected. It could have affected another area of the tank where the oil could have leaked. You're asking for problems. You really are. And it's going to cost you a lot of money to remediate that soil. I just read one today where during this crazy market the past few years where people waived inspections, I hate that, they bought a house, found out there was an oil tank in it, and guess what? Oil got into the ground. It cost these people, you ready? $250,000 to remediate the soil. Yep. Jeez. No joke. So even if it's been decommissioned, and I don't care if it's gone through the process, they did all the paperwork with the town and everything, get that seller to take that tank out and test the soil again. Make sure it's safe. If they're not willing to do it, I'd walk away from it. Don't buy it. The next type of house that I would never buy are houses that were flipped by LLCs. I'm not throwing shade at these LLCs, you know, these private investors. I get it. You want to get into the real estate business. You want to make money. I totally get that. I understand. But a lot of these flippers I'm seeing are inexperienced. They're hiring inexperienced contractors, and they're doing such a poor job on flipping these homes. The big red flag for me is when I walk through these homes that have been flipped, it's the cosmetic. As soon as I see there's issues with the cosmetic, whether it be, like, say, it's the molding's uneven, the paint job is done poorly. Look, even the paint job, look, I'm sorry. That's a red flag because to me, they were rushing through it. You know, the past couple of years, I've been seeing a lot of these where homes are being bought and they're just to be turned around and flipped because they're trying to capitalize on the market. I get it. Look, that's their right. That's it. They're entitled to do that. But when you do a rush job, what's wrong with the house? What's going on behind the walls that they did not fix? Okay, or they didn't update. I would steer clear of it. And look, you can go on Zillow. It shows you on Zillow who the owner is. You can also see the history of the sale of the home. So if you saw the house was purchased in, like, say, the last year or 2 years, it was at a low price. Now they're asking for a lot more. And you can see that obviously the house has been updated. Just be very, very careful with that. And if you go through that house and you see, like, I know it's stupid, but if you see like shoddy cosmetic work, yeah, I can guarantee you the rest of the house is shoddy as well. Never buy it. Don't do it. The last type of house I would never buy, homes with over-the-top custom features. You may walk into a house and you see that huge built-in fish tank, 500-gallon fish tank is built into the wall and you think that is the coolest thing. Or there could be like a secret hideaway room in the house. Or you can have a man cave, an over-the-top man cave with just like all the sports memorabilia you can think of, right? You may love that and say, this is so cool. But then after a while you could get bored with it and now you want to change it and it's going to cost you money.
Oh, no. You're kidding me.
Mm-hmm. It is. So you have to take that into consideration. So say you love that fish tank and then a few years from now you're like, yeah, I'm done taking care of fish. I don't want this. Yeah, that's a lot of money to remove that. And then what are you going to do with that empty space? How are you going to fill that in? You have to come up with a whole new design to fill that space or just close off the wall or what have you. It's going to end up costing you more than, what you had even planned for. Another thing is sometimes these over-the-top custom kitchens can be a problem too. I went and previewed a house for a seller several years back and they had this custom kitchen they were very proud of. They spent $300,000 on this custom kitchen, mahogany wood, very ornate, beautiful cabinets, but in all honesty, that's not going to appeal to your average buyer. It may appeal to a very small group of buyers that would love that look. So if you say, I love this kitchen, I love the cabinets, you buy it, don't expect the next person who's going to buy your house is going to love it as much as you do. And it might hurt your resale value. So any over-the-top custom things in a house that down the road it's going to cost you in the long run, no. Nope. Never buy it. Here's a little tip for you to save some time. So if you say come across these houses, you want more information on it, ask your real estate agent, number one, to see if there's a seller's disclosure on MLS. I mean, you can't get those on Zillow. You have to ask the agent to provide that for you. That's going to give you the history of the home. The homeowners have to answer all these questions as far as the age of the roof, the HVAC, the water heater, furnace, all the things. It could also tell you if there's any termite damage in the house. Like, they have to answer all of these questions honestly. So ask to review that seller's disclosure before you even go and physically look at the house. Save yourself some time. The other thing regarding flood zones, you're not going to see that on Zillow either. So you need to ask your real estate agent to check MLS to see if that house is in a flood zone. And if it is, No, don't do that. Don't do that. I really appreciate you being here. So if you're new here, be sure to subscribe, like this video. If you need a referral for a real estate agent in your area, please click that link down below in the description box. I would happily connect you with somebody in your area. Hope you found this video valuable today. And thank you for joining me to get to your dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker. And I will see you next time.
LegalZoom makes it simple to start.
All right, so Jackie just gave us what we needed, so we know that everything that we do ain't gonna be the best experience that we've ever had, and so for me to sit here and play a bunch of videos, happy videos about buying a house was just wrong. So I wanted to play something different. All right, now as I keep working on this jump shot, getting a good jump shot for myself, I'm gonna play another one. Okay.
I'm a multimillionaire and I don't own my house and I don't invest in any property. But why? Isn't a house a great investment? Isn't buying property a great place to put your money? And surely it's better than throwing your money away on rent, right? Well, when you run the numbers, that's actually often wrong. And I've been saying this for years on my podcast, in my book, even on my Netflix show. You've been lied to about buying property. And in this video, I'm gonna break down once and for all the 4 main parts that you need to know so that by the end, you'll have a clear idea of the true costs of buying a house and what you should do. Starting with part 1. The dream you've been sold. What is the American dream? If you're like most people, you picture a single family home with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids and a dog. Think about it. That is not an accident. Where did that dream come from? That dream is the result of decades of marketing. Some people might even call it propaganda, including from one of the most corrupt organizations in the world, the National Association of Realtors. They just had $1 billion+ judgment filed against them, by the way. Let me explain what I mean. Most people in the world do not live in single family homes like we do in America. And yet we believe this is the only measure of success. Next up, think about the numbers themselves. Decades ago, your parents' generation, certainly their parents, a house would cost roughly 2.5x your annual income. People would put down 20%, and the total monthly payments would be about or less than 30% of your gross income, which includes mortgage, maintenance, insurance, taxes, all of it. Let me give you an example with some real numbers. If you make $50,000 a year, gross income before taxes, that means that your house would cost $125,000. Do you know any houses right now that you'd want to live in for $125,000? And in that same example of $50K a year income, you'd put $25,000 down and your total monthly payments would be $1,250 per month. Have you ever seen a house like that in your entire lifetime? No, things are different now, and yet we are still operating on these old rules that have been passed down to us without taking into account how things have changed. And this still doesn't explain the craziness of people who buy houses for 5 times, 10 times their salary with 3% down. And I'm telling you this because if you buy something you cannot afford, it might seem like you are buying your way into the American dream, but oftentimes it will come around and bite you in the ass. Which brings us to part 2, the myths about owning a home. There are 4 main myths about home ownership, and I want you to know each of them. Myth number 1, prices in real estate always go up. No, they don't. You would think people understand this after the 2008 recession, but there are powerful forces at play to get you to forget about this, such as the National Association of Realtors, your family, even the government, all encouraging you to buy a house. Remember, many things appear to always get more expensive. That is the result of inflation. But in real estate, which is opaque, landlords will often discount the number of months you can pay. They'll do rate buy downs. They will do all kinds of things to avoid reducing the price while secretly reducing the price to keep up the myth that buying a house always goes up. Myth number 2, the value of a house doubles every 10 years. This isn't always true. And even when the price does double, most people forget to factor in phantom costs. Phantom costs are all the costs of a house that most people forget about. They're phantoms. They include things like closing costs, taxes, property insurance, maintenance, repairs, even the gas to drive to Home Depot that you use, and your time, and of course, the cost, the opportunity cost of that down payment and what you could have made if you simply invested it in an S&P 500 index fund. In fact, it's actually quite common that you could sell your house for a higher price than you paid for it and still lose money when you factor in all the phantom costs. Remember, it is not simply the bigger number minus the smaller number pops out profit. That's not how it works. You got to factor in all those phantom costs to get your true profit. Myth number 3, you can use leverage to increase your money. This is partially true, and homeowners often point to leverage as a key benefit. You can put $20,000 down for a $100,000 house. If the house climbs to $120K, you effectively doubled your money. That is true, but remember this, leverage works on the way up as well as the way down. If your house declines by 10%, you don't just lose 10% of your equity. In fact, you can be wiped out. So it is important to remember that house prices don't only go up, house values don't only go up, and leverage can work for you or it can work against you. Myth number 4, I can deduct my mortgage interest from my taxes and save a bunch of money. Look, tax savings are great, but most people forget that they are saving money that they ordinarily never would have spent. As they put it, you don't spend $1 to save a dime. In many, many cities, the amount you pay for owning a house is much more than you would pay to rent an equivalent house, especially once you factor in all the phantom costs. And remember, those tax deductions that everybody talks about, they were reduced even further in 2018, so I would not count on this. When you ask people, for example, what tax deductions, they often go, tax deductions. I go, what tax deductions? Most people have no idea what a tax deduction even is, much less which ones apply to their housing situation. Okay, now that we've learned to look past the housing propaganda and understand some of these myths, what do we need to do next? Well, that takes us to part 3. Always run the numbers. Have you heard this phrase? If you rent, you're just throwing your money away, or you're paying your landlord's mortgage. I got a question for you. Would you say the same thing about eating out? Would you say, you're paying the restaurant owner's mortgage when you eat that sushi? No. So why is it that just rolls off our tongue when it comes to housing? That's because somebody invented that phrase and now it's in the zeitgeist. And we resent that we might be paying somebody else's mortgage, but we don't resent when we go and buy paper towels and pay someone else's mortgage because we're paying for value. Now, this is really important. I want you to pay close attention, especially when you are talking about high cost of living cities like New York, LA, San Francisco, 3 cities I have lived in. Buying can be way more expensive than renting. In fact, it might not make financial sense at all. I'll give you an example. When I was living in New York City, I kept a very close eye on real estate. I was renting a nice place and I saw that there was a unit right next door. Same view, same square footage, same number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and I tracked it. It would have cost me 2.2 times more to own than what I was paying in rent. Let's just say I was paying $3,000 a month in rent. It would have cost me $6,600 a month to own an equivalent property. You know what I did instead? I said, first of all, I like renting. If I have a problem, I just text my landlord. And second, I took the $3,600 extra dollars I would have spent owning and I just invested it in the market. And guess what? I made more money doing that, renting and investing the difference, than I would have owning. No Home Depot trips, no renovations, no problems with the faucet, just living my life, texting my landlord, sitting back on the weekends and chilling, and investing $3,600 per month in the market. Look, I'm not saying your financial situation will be exactly the same, but if you buy a house without opening up a spreadsheet and entering some numbers, you are making a huge mistake. I want you to run the numbers. I want you to look at the home you're thinking of buying and calculate the true cost. That includes property taxes, which will go up, maintenance costs, which are unpredictable but still need to be factored in. Even the $25,000 roof repair that's going to happen 11 years from now. You need to properly account for that now. Mortgage payments, opportunity cost. Use this to work out the real monthly payment of owning a house. And then compare that number to the cost of renting a similar property. If owning is considerably more, then financially speaking, it might make sense to rent and invest the difference. On the other hand, you might discover that it makes great financial sense to own. If that's the case, God bless. But I want you to understand these numbers before you make the biggest purchase of your life. Now, what about property as an investment vehicle? What about buying a property and renting it out? Well, I will say that it can work, but you've got to really know your numbers. And in my experience, most landlords do not even know their own basic numbers, much less are they able to properly plan and set aside money and treat owning a property as a business. In fact, in my experience, over half of the people who write to me in financial trouble are there because of one of two things: their housing costs or how much they spend on their cars. So buying a house should be thought of as a purchase first, a very expensive purchase, and an investment second. Why? Why do you need to think about your house as a purchase, not an investment? Let me tell you, there are two reasons. First, the problem of risk. If your house is your biggest investment, then how diversified is your portfolio? Think about it. If you're paying $2,000 a month to a mortgage, are you investing $6,000 a month elsewhere to balance your risk? Of course not. Second, real estate in general offers a pretty poor return for individual investors. Yale economist Robert Shiller found that from 1915 through 2015, home prices increased on average only 0.6% per year. I know this sounds crazy, but it is true. Go look at the data. Now, if you want to grow your wealth,
know what you want and must have, and things must-haves, and things that would be good, but you don't have to have. Yep. Exactly.
My suggestion would be first, invest in a 401k. Go with index funds. Let them compound over time. If at some point you want to add in property as an investment, sure, part of a well-diversified portfolio. If you want to own your house to live in, treat it as a purchase, not as an investment. Okay, we've got one part left, but before we jump into that, if you're watching this right now and you've made it this far, hit subscribe because we've got tons of new videos coming, chock full of new ways of looking at money. Which brings us to part 4. Is buying a house ever a good idea? I want to make sure nobody misunderstands me because a lot of people have accused me of saying you should never buy a house. That's not true. In fact, I will buy a house myself one day. And as I said, it's going to be a terrible financial decision, but I'm going to do it anyway. What I am against is poor financial decisions and simply following what everyone else is doing without ever running the numbers. So how am I planning ahead to buy a house? Well, here are 5 questions I'm asking myself, and I recommend you do the same. Question number 1, will I live here for 10 plus years?
I be saying
That's because when it comes to all the costs that you will incur, including those transaction costs and closing costs, you want to amortize or spread them out over 10 years. It's kind of like buying a new car. The minute you drive it off the lot, it loses a pretty sizable percentage. That's the same thing with a house. But nobody talks about it. The minute you buy a house, you lose tens of thousands of dollars. So you want to spread those costs out over at least 10 years. That way, you have a very good shot at coming out with a good financial outcome. Question number 2, will my total monthly housing costs be less than 28% of my gross income? Let me explain. This is really important to know. Why gross income? Because some people take out tons of money to max out their 401k. We want to start from apples to apples gross income. Why 28%? Well, typically that was considered a good amount to manage risk. It's really hard to stay below that number. So maybe in a high cost of living city with low amount of debt, you can stretch it 32, 33%, but you want to be very careful because the higher you go, the more risk you have and the less you will be able to have any money to do anything else. Question number 3, have I saved 20% for a down payment? I'm not saying you have to put 20% down, but saving 20% down is a signal to yourself that you can actually save money consistently. And that is something you will have to do once you own a house. Question number 4, am I okay if the value of my house goes down? Well, you should be okay because house prices go up and house prices go down. House prices go up and you might actually still lose money once you factor in all those costs. So you should not buy a house if you are thinking it's going to be a magic way to get rich, because for many people it's not. But if you're buying a house saying, look, I've calculated the numbers, I'm okay if it goes up or down, I'm buying this as a house, a place to live, that's a good sign that you might be ready. Question number 5, am I excited about buying? Do you know how many people I speak to who just feel so beaten down because everybody around them has told them, you should buy a house. You're a failure until you buy a house. Oh my God, you're throwing money away on rent. And they genuinely feel like failures. You are not a failure if you rent. I could go out and buy a house today, and I choose not to. I want you to be empowered to run the numbers and make a decision for your rich life. Forget what your parents say, forget what your friends say. You decide what is right for your rich life. Now, if the answer to any of those questions is a hard no, then it's probably not the right time to buy. Now, I hope this video saves you money and helps you create your rich life. Now, check out this video to watch more.
All right. Let's see. Let's do something that's just right on the edge. Let's go. Why is this video so long?
Welcome back to The World According to Briggs and a supercut video. That's right, we're
okay. That's why it's so long. I don't want that.
From the city known as the murder capital to another ranked as the most miserable city in America. Today on Across the Globe, we're going to look at the 10 worst cities to live in America. Moving somewhere new is a big decision, so whether you're looking for places to avoid or you want to see if your city is on the list, we have you covered. Side note, if you haven't seen our video on the best cities to live in America, that may be worth checking out too. All right, let's get into it. Number 10, Bakersfield, California. U.S. News recently ranked Bakersfield the 15th most expensive city to live in America. And while it's ranked more affordable than cities like New York, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, we decided it was a worse place to live because it lacks amenities found in these other cities. In other words, the amount you'd be paying to live in Bakersfield doesn't offset what you'd get out of it. Let's start with...
That is exactly how I knew it was time to buy a house. My forever home. Yes.
General look
Just like,
of Bakersfield.
I don't care what happened, I need a place to live.
Some cities have beautiful architecture or an interesting layout. Bakersfield has been ranked one of the ugliest cities in America by both Reddit and BuzzFeed. According to one Reddit user, any hope Bakersfield might have of being considered an attractive city is tainted by all of the oil wells surrounding it. Bakersfield is also notoriously hot, and that's no surprise considering it's in the desert. The average temperature in late July, for instance, is nearly 100 degrees. In addition, while there are kid-friendly activities here, a study from 2020 ranked Bakersfield as the worst city in America for kids to grow up. That's primarily because of the city's high poverty rate and poor public schools, with nearly 1 out of every 4 teachers having less than 3 years of experience. Number 9, Farmington, New Mexico. When you think of a great place to live, a big part of that is probably the people, right? You want friendly neighbors who inspire you, who have your back, and who you can just have enjoyable conversations with. Farmington is not the place to find this. In fact, this city of about 45,000 was named the second most unhappy city in America based on data from the US Census. As if that weren't bad enough, Farmington has a terrible track record when it comes to crime, education, and availability of public spaces. A 2018 USA Today report, for instance, called Farmington one of the worst places in America to raise children. That's because of high rates of violent crime, poor access to public spaces like parks and places to exercise, and low rates of high school graduation. In 2018, for instance, Farmington had an average high school graduation rate of 71.8%, which is one of the lowest in the entire country. So, whether you're looking for a place to raise kids or are just seeking out a city with neighbors who will inspire you, Farmington probably isn't it. Number 8, Las Vegas, Nevada. Sin City. While Vegas can be a fun place to visit, we don't advise trying to move here anytime soon. For starters, Las Vegas is a terrible place to move if you're in need of a job. That's because its metro area has the highest unemployment rate out of metro areas nationwide. Recent data from Statista showed that its metro area unemployment rate is at 5.6%. Las Vegas is also incredibly expensive, as it's ranked 18th out of the top most expensive places to live in America by US News. Few available jobs and a high cost of living are definitely not a good combination. Plus, did we mention that Vegas is hot? In the summer, expect to spend tons of money blasting your AC, as average temperatures in July can reach 105 degrees. So, unless you're just flying in for a quick weekend of fun, we recommend you stay far away from here. Number 7, Detroit, Michigan. Detroit just can't seem to catch a break. Once considered one of the richest cities in the entire world, it has since fallen and fallen far. In fact, now this city is considered the poorest city in America, with high unemployment rates and high rates of poverty. Unemployment is currently at 7%, far above the national average of 3.7%, and the poverty rate is also extremely high. Recent estimates say that Detroit's poverty rate is 33%, which is over 150% higher than the average rate of poverty in the entire state of Michigan. Detroit also has elevated rates of violent crime, though property crime is below the national average. But that might be because Detroit has tons of abandoned houses and sometimes even entire abandoned neighborhoods, so maybe there's just not that much that's worth breaking into. Finally, Detroit's population is decreasing. That means that more people are leaving the city than moving to it. According to recent census data, the
Boarding passes?
Check.
Kids?
Check. Did we get upgraded?
Let me check. Yep.
Just checking on you. Life awaits. American checks all the right boxes to get you there.
The population has decreased over 10% within the last decade or so. That's Detroit's 7th decade straight of population decline. If that's not a sign that this city is probably somewhere you don't want to live, I don't know what is. Number 6, Florida City, Florida. If you've ever searched up lists of the worst cities to live, Florida City has probably come up more than once. That's primarily because it's filled with crime. In fact, Florida City has the most crime out of any city in Florida and is frequently considered the most dangerous place to live in the entire state. This city even has the nickname of the murder capital of Florida. Probably not somewhere you want to move. But even if you can somehow get past all of the crime here, there's probably not much else that would incentivize you to move. Unemployment is higher than the state and national averages, making jobs here difficult to come by. Florida City also ranks low in its public schools, and Niche gave it a D on its housing score, which is determined according to factors like home value to income ratio, median effective property tax, and monthly housing cost to income ratio. So to recap, we've got high crime, high unemployment, bad housing options, and poor public schools. Next time you're browsing Zillow, you might want to eliminate this city from your search. Number 5, McAllen, Texas. If you're moving in search of new work opportunities, we already mentioned that Las Vegas and Detroit are pretty bad options, but there's a place that's even worse, and that's McAllen, Texas. This city of about 145,000 was recently ranked one of the worst cities to find a job by several publications, including The Hill and Money Geek. And what Money Geek found was that McAllen rated poorly in terms of overall growth and housing opportunity, and was given a 99 out of 100 on job competition. In other words, it's an incredibly competitive city for those seeking a job. Okay, What if you've got remote work lined up and won't be looking for a job locally? Should you still consider moving here? Probably not. In fact, McAllen ranks pretty mediocre across other categories like safety and crime and availability of outdoor activities. It also has a poverty rate that is almost double the national average, so you might want to turn your attention elsewhere. Number 4, Jackson, Mississippi. If you're looking to move to a new city, you're probably in search of a place that makes you feel safe. You want to be able to step outside of your house and walk down the street without worrying about being robbed, or worse. In that case, you definitely don't want to move to Jackson, Mississippi. This city of about 150,000 was recently named the second most dangerous city in America by MoneyGeek. In fact, Jackson was found to have a homicide rate of 99.5 per 100,000 people in 2021. If that's not enough to scare you off, it might also interest you to know that Jackson is considered one of the worst places to raise a family. That's due in large part to its high rates of crime, but also to other factors like poorly ranked public schools and few housing options. And while Jackson may appear more affordable on the surface than some other cities, that doesn't mean much when you consider that the median household income here is only about $39,000. That's almost half of the median household income across the entire United States, which is currently at about $71,000. Number 3, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Remember when we talked about how Farmington, New Mexico is the second most unhappy city in America? I bet you're wondering what number 1 is, right? Well, if you hadn't already guessed, it's Pine Bluff, Arkansas. This was ranked the most miserable city in America based on U.S. Census data compiled by Business Insider. The list took into account factors like population change, percent of people working, percent of people without health care, number of people living in poverty, and more. The results weren't great. Pine Bluff saw a negative 13.8% change in population growth between 2010 and 2018, meaning more people are leaving than moving here. Other factors also weren't great. 30.4% of residents here live in poverty, and the median household income is only about $32,000, far below the median across the entire US. Okay, maybe you're a hermit and you're not planning on socializing with any of your miserable neighbors. Could it still be an okay place to live? Not quite. Niche gave it a letter grade of a C for outdoor activities and ranked its public schools a D+. In other words, there's not too much that Pine Bluff has going for it. Number 2, St. Louis, Missouri. Did you know that St. Louis is considered the most dangerous city in America? This might come as a surprise, as I'm sure other cities come to mind when you're picturing the most dangerous places to live. But MoneyGeek recently ranked it number 1 on its list of most dangerous places to live based on its high cost of crime per capita. There are several reasons St. Louis might have such a huge amount of crime. One is that this city of about 300,000 has faced a lot of economic struggles as of late. Its population has decreased, for instance, meaning that more people are leaving than coming, which is never a good sign. St. Louis's metro area has also seen slower growth in its GDP than the country's average, indicating that its economy is shrinking. Its public schools are also failing, with half of the entire state of Missouri's worst public schools being in the St. Louis area as of 2019. Number 1, Mendota, California. Finally, all of you people who love to hate on California got your wish. If you hadn't heard of this city before, you're not missing much. With a population of about 12,000 and a location in Fresno County, it's about 2 hours south of San Jose. What we found was that this city ranked number 1 on multiple lists of worst places to live. And that's due to a few factors. For one, the poverty rate is 49%. That's right, half of the people live here in poverty. For comparison, the national poverty rate across the entire United States is 11.6%. Mendota is over 4 times that. Part of the reason so many people live in poverty could be because only 1.8% of residents have a bachelor's degree, compared to the national percentage of about 32%. So most people work in unskilled jobs. That is, if they can even get a job. Unemployment here is high, recently at 15.4%. What about the worst states to live in America? Watch that video right here.
At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. They put their name.
Hello friends, in this video we are going to discover the top 10 safest and most affordable places to live in the United States 2024. If you are thinking about relocating, safety and affordability might top your list of priorities. However, finding a place that meets these criteria without compromising on livability can be challenging. This video unveils 10 cities in the US that strike a balance between cost-effectiveness, safety, and a quality living experience. Through careful analysis of crime rates, housing costs, and other key metrics, we've identified places that stand out for their value without compromising on the essence of a good life. Finding the safest and cheapest places to live in the US. To begin, we started with available housing cost data and lists of affordable places to live in the US. In addition to affordability, we considered criteria such as trends in population growth and housing costs, unemployment rates, and major employers in the area. Next, we evaluated that list against safety data, focusing on violent and property crime rates and including other metrics where available. This process allowed us to create a list that, unlike some other lists you might find online, features affordable places where you might actually want to live. Kindly make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon before we start this video about the 10 safest and most affordable places to live in the United States 2024. Now let's dig deeper into each of the top 10 safest and most affordable places to live in the United States 2024. Number 10. Greenville, South Carolina. Situated in the northwest part of South Carolina, Greenville is a thriving city known for its rich cultural scene and picturesque downtown area. With a population of 74,548, an increase of 5.15% since 2020, it's a growing community that still retains a small-town feel. One of the most attractive aspects of Greenville is its affordability. According to Redfin, its median home sale price was $435,000, an increase of 17.6% over the past year, indicating a strong appreciation in property value. Renting is also a viable option in Greenville, with average rent between $1,144 and $1,400.
That when I go to work, I'm gonna have my phone. I'm gonna have my phone, man. I don't care what nobody say. Unless we doing something like security is important, then I'll put my phone, my phone won't be with me. But I always been like that, yo. I'm going to have my phone. But now I'm like, yo, I don't need my phone at work. No more phone at work. No more phone at work. It is a distraction. All right, back to the video.
$165 per month. This rental cost, coupled with the city's cultural offerings and employment opportunities, makes Greenville an attractive place for both families and young professionals.
We know somebody that lives
in terms of safety, Greenville had a violent crime rate of 477.7 incidents per 100,000 residents and a property crime rate of 2,740.8 per 100,000. While these figures are above average for a city of its size and therefore suggest a need for caution, the city has also been listed on the list of safest cities in the United States due to its proactive community engagement endeavors, including community policing strategies, local crime prevention programs, and various other measures designed to foster a strong sense of community and reduce crime rates. There are plenty of employment opportunities in Greenville, and the Greenville-Malden-Easley area had an unemployment rate of 2.4%. Major employers in the area include Bon Secours, St. Francis Health, Prisma Health, and Michelin North America, providing many options for job seekers, especially for those in the health and manufacturing sectors. Greenville is a compelling choice for those seeking a balance of safety, affordability, and a culturally rich living experience. Number 9. Fayetteville, Arkansas. Nestled in the Ozark Mountains, Fayetteville, Arkansas is a city rich in natural beauty and cultural heritage. With a growing population of 97,697, an increase of 3.91% since 2020, it's clear that more people are finding this gem of a city to be an appealing place to call home. One of the most attractive features of Fayetteville is its affordability. The median home sale price, according to Redfin, was $363,181, a decrease of 4.2% over the last year. For renters, the average monthly rent in Fayetteville is between $920 and $1,290, making it a reasonably cost-effective choice for many residents, including students and young professionals. Although the city had an average violent crime rate for a city of its size at 344.7 incidents per 100,000 residents, and a relatively high property crime rate of 1,955.3 incidents per 100,000 residents, it's essential to note that crime rates often differ substantially across different neighborhoods within a city. Some areas may have significantly higher rates due to various socioeconomic factors, while others might be relatively safe. Furthermore, local law enforcement and community organizations are continually working to improve safety and reduce crime rates. The employment scenario in Fayetteville is promising, with an unemployment rate in the Fayetteville-Springdale-Rogers area is 2.4%. Major employers include the University of Arkansas, Veterans Health System, and Walmart. The welcoming community, coupled with affordability and job market stability, makes Fayetteville an attractive place for individuals and families alike.
I'm glad Greenville was on there. That made my day. So we're gonna go ahead and close out for the day, a couple minutes early. The takeaways that I want everybody to have from this is, if you're looking at buying a home, do your research, take your time, figure it out. We don't necessarily stop and think about what type of we don't stop and think about a lot. But when you do major things like that, like buying a home, buying a car, and all of that whatnot, you gotta stop and think. And also, it'll help you to stop and think about other things that you are actually putting your time and effort into purchasing, or to make money to purchase, or to do anything to be able to purchase. So think about that as well. I'll restart my PlayStation. So yeah, that's the takeaway that I want us to have from today. It's been another great week of Expansion Pack here on DGTA TV. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. Thank y'all for joining in with me for another week. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place. Monday, planning and execution. You know we back, baby. We back, baby. Oh. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Over the recent years, I don't want to be famous. When I was young, I wanted to be famous. Recent years, I don't want to be famous. Forget that thought, though. I do want to have my own TV show. This is cool, man. This is so cool. I sit in here, I be playing a game, be talking about stuff. Thank y'all for the opportunity. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for supporting. If you have not yet, it's almost coming up on the end of September. You better go ahead and get your subscription in. Because we're going to change this whole platform. And once I change the platform, it ain't going to be like you can just go somewhere else and get what you get here. All right? So, with that being said, I'll see y'all next week. I'm out of here. Tune in to me gaming this weekend. I'm going to be putting it down on the game all weekend long. We ain't got to talk about nothing, baby. We ain't got to talk about nothing, baby. We ain't got to talk about nothing, baby. I'ma just play the game.